get involved when it comes to, for example, conflicts such as Ukraine-Russia conflict?
Yes.
The stance, because the question is really the stance of the church, right? Should it be a mediator between the two parties, or should it take, to some extent, sides? What is the role in that regard? I think
The
what
church
you
will
just
never take
proposed,
sides.
that is by definition, that's the role. But then how ought the church go about, for example, in Ukraine, Russia?
The church goes about through dialogue, Mr. Yannick. Dialogue is the way to it is when you dialogue with two parties that you can come to a consensus, to a solution. And that is what the church does. The church does not take sides. No, the church stands in the middle and tries to dialogue. And that is what the church has been doing in Ukraine. The Pope has spoken to Mr. What's his name again? The president of Russia, Putin. The church has spoken to Putin. The church has spoken to the president of Ukraine. He has been to the Vatican now. Yes, he has been to the Vatican. The church, the Pope Leo, in fact, Pope Leo, the recent Pope, has called Putin. They have spoken on the phone. So that is the function of the church, to dialogue with these two parties so that they can solve the problem.
Are you sometimes frustrated because there are people who think they should take a more aggressive stand? In other words, they should actually pick sides, because that's also potentially a view that some people might argue. So I'm very curious, because what you're basically proposing is precisely what Jesus Christ was all about. He was able to foster a common ground where people can start seeing each other again, as you said, dialoguing, right? And
Yes.
seeing the humanity in each other's eyes, right? But what's your response to people who might say, you know what, the church should be very clear, condemn one side and not the other?
Once the church dialogues with the two parties, Mr. Yannick, the church comes to a conclusion. You understand? So the church has come to a conclusion with the case of Russia. The church has condemned the killings of the Russians trying to kill the Ukrainians. I remember, in fact, Pope Francis, I remember in the last Christmas audience of 2024, December, Pope Francis, before beginning the meeting with the cardinals, the Christmas wishes, he said some minutes ago, some children were killed in Ukraine, by Russian soldiers, and he condemned it. You get it? So the church condemns. It's not as if it does not take side. But when I'm talking of taking side, I mean that the church says what you guys are doing is not correct, it's wrong. What you are doing is wrong. Please stop doing this. And that is what the church has done. The church takes sides following justice. You understand? The church says, Russia, you guys, why is it that you guys are not stopping the killing? After the dialogue, they still keep killing. So the church has no army, Mr. Yannick. The church has no army. They have Swiss guards. Have you been to the Vatican?
No, but it's on my list.
Good. When you go to the Vatican, you're going to see Swiss guards. And those Swiss guards are there to protect the Pope. You don't see them like, it's not an army. It's not as if they go out with guns. No. They're just there to protect the Pope. Unfortunately, we don't have an army in the Catholic Church that would go to Russia and fight. The church uses its voice as the following the gospel of Jesus Christ, who came to preach peace and to promote justice. The church dialogues. You don't know how many dialogues has taken place between this war of Ukraine and Russia. A lot has taken place. But Russia keeps killing. So what can the church do? The church can only continue to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Yes.